Good day, all. Today we are talking with Rudy Youssef, application engineer at AI Build. So, Rudy, welcome. Rudy, let's start with the backstory. So, let's start from the beginning. Can you share how you first got interested in technology and engineering? And was it something you were drawn to from a young age?
So yeah, I've always had this curious character and curious nature about me, which essentially led me into the world of engineering. And I liked mechanical engineering in particular because I felt it can have a combination of everything: the mechanical, the software, the electrical. It's quite a diverse subject. And then purely by coincidence, I ended up getting into product design, or actually I enjoyed product design, but I ended up being in a robotics environment where I was designing for robotics, and one thing led to another, essentially, which got me to my previous job, whereby I used a large format robot to print large format 3D prints. And I was using AI Build as my primary software essentially to complete all of that. So that's a very brief backstory.
So you started as a mechanical engineer.
Correct.
And how did you discover 3D printing? And when did this become a key part of your work?
So when I first started mechanical engineering, we had to do several projects in a lot of our courses. At the time, our university wasn't really equipped with 3D printers, but we really saw the value and the need for 3D printers. We used traditional methods like turning, normal cutting, and normal CNCing. During my last year of university, I did an internship. I went to BMW in Germany, and that's where I started actually using 3D printing as a solution for some industrial needs that we had. And once I came back from my internship, we opened a new space in our university called our Makerspace. And that's where we had 3D printers, both FDM and resin, and they were accessible for students to prototype and to do their projects. And luckily, I was managing that room and I was supporting students on doing their slicing, whether it for SLA or FDM printers. And since then, 3D printing has become an essential part of every role I have had in every job I have taken. We always resorted to 3D printing to either do solutions for small problems we've got or even larger problems, especially when I got into more industrial 3D printing for additive manufacturing.
Very, very, very cool. Was there like a defining moment when you knew you wanted to move deeper into 3D printing or in general automation?
I think for quite a long time, I looked at 3D printing as an assistive technology rather than a production technology on its own. So in most companies I've been to, we always resorted to traditional methods to produce parts because 3D printing seemed to be expensive and somewhat out of reach. And it wasn't until in my previous job we decided on investing into that technology for more industrial applications and industrial solutions that meet actual demands from our clients, that I saw it being as a particular production technology on its own. And I think that was the defining moment for me. And since then, I've decided to go in depth in everything additive manufacturing, in polymers and metals and ceramics, and try to get a general understanding of the industry itself, essentially.
And when you made the transition, did you face any challenges? What was your experience during that process of transition?
I think the challenges could be looked at twofold. One was an internal challenge. I wasn't sure whether this is an industry that I could pursue as a full-time job and make a living out of, because for a very long time, additive manufacturing was a very risky industry. It was a very risky business to be in. But year after year, we're seeing progression, we're seeing growth, we're seeing more and more big players and big industrial companies using additive manufacturing as a solution for them to produce parts. So I think that part has boosted my confidence a lot. The other part was, I think, understanding the intricacies of each and every technology, how it functions, the logic behind the control process involved, the materials, the software that's required essentially to prepare a part for slicing. So I wouldn't say it was a challenge from a sense of difficulty, but I think it's a continuous learning process whereby each and every time something new comes up, a person should have that willingness to learn and understand the underlying mechanisms behind a certain technology. And I think my background in mechanical engineering has helped me understand those concepts much faster and much easier.
Definitely, Rudy, and your skill and your approach to new technologies is unique from my experience. It's very nice always to have people around us that are motivated by that technology and understanding that this requires work and patience. Now that you are at AI Build, what attracted you to the company in the first place? What attracted you to the company in the first place?
So I have always loved geometry. And by geometry, I mean essentially creating something out of nothing. And that's what attracted me to product design in the first place. It's very motivating being able to design something in 3D and then seeing that object manifest in front of you. And I think in my first year at university, I was introduced to visual programming and a software called LabVIEW, where we used visual blocks to program Lego robots. And it was a very inspiring experience for me because essentially we could program fairly simple machines without actually needing to code. And when I was first introduced to large format additive manufacturing, it was a bit scary because I know these big industrial machines need a lot of software development behind them. But what made my life much easier was AI Build, precisely because it uses geometry to achieve what people in the past took hours and hours and hours to program. So us as a visual programming tool, or AI Build as a visual programming tool, it made my penetration into programming large format robots much easier. And it rang a bell that's quite close to me, essentially. Through geometry, being able to generate fairly complex toolpaths for very complex machines. So I think that has been one of the key attractors for me with AI Build. And I would say I understood the logic, I understood the language quite nicely, and that has allowed me to produce some fairly complex parts that have satisfied lots and lots of clients. So yeah.
Thank you, Rudy. What's a typical day in your role like?
On a typical day, I would come in the morning. I would check my emails essentially to see what requests clients have. We have several stages, essentially, with how we take client tasks. If it is the simple tasks, we go back to them directly with responses on how we could support them with the normal functionality in the software. Sometimes it can be some complex requests, which we escalate into projects and start looking at them internally, seeing how we could support the client to get the most efficient workflow for their production. If we cannot, for any reason, perform that workflow, then we escalate it into a research process where we start looking into how we could improve our software, how we could add that functionality to make our clients' lives easier. On top of that, we have a lot of experimentation. So the thing I love about our job, or my job here at AI Build, is we get to experiment a lot. We can always stay ahead of the industry by trying what people think can't be done. And we have time and time proven that with a bit of research, with a bit of tolerance to making mistakes, we can achieve a lot. On top of that, it is the actual communication with the client. It's doing some onboarding, some training. So yeah, no day is the same at AI Build.
That's very nice to hear, and thank you for your kind words. Collaboration seems to be a big part of your work. Can you tell us more about the different teams you interact with?
Of course. So my role is called application engineer. And for an application engineer at AI Build, there needs to be interaction with several other departments. The primary department I interact with is customer success, whereby we take customer questions, support needs, and we help tackle them from a technical point of view. We also work with sales teams. So whenever we are trying to demonstrate the capabilities of our software to new clients, we jump on to show them, especially if they have some fairly complex technical requests, we support them in that. From an application engineer point of view as well, we support research and development, pointing out how we could improve our software, improve the functionality. In addition, we could be working with our UI UX teams in order to show them how a user could benefit from certain changes in the software to improve their user experience. So I think working in any of the teams at AI Build involves a lot of collaboration with everyone else. And I think, yeah, it requires a lot of patience, and it requires a lot of understanding of different fields in order for us to have clear communication between each other and set fairly good expectations, essentially, for how we want things to proceed.
Yeah, it's such a young technology. Although it has been there for many years, it's still maturing, and uh, I can say that most of all of you guys wear many hats in our company and have to multitask in different areas because it's a new technology and each customer has their own unique applications. So we need to have that collaboration within all departments and scale and being always I would say in a way very curious about different things so we can discuss them and in a healthy way brainstorm and argue between us to find the optimum solution. What has been your favorite projects since joining AIDEL?
Um, my favorite project. So I was given a piece of furniture which I needed to print. It was a very complex chair which challenges all of the difficult points in additive manufacturing, lots of overhangs, lots of directional changes, and it was quite difficult. We had to escalate the project to a research level, which meant that I had to collaborate even more with our software team, with our developers, to see how we could push the limits of our software in order to achieve something like that. And eventually, we got a print that the client was very satisfied with. So I'm quite pleased with that.
Yeah, I remember that project. I remember your long hours working hard with Nicoletta and the rest of the team to find a good solution. I was really pleased to see the result. Look, the quality is very, very good. Have you encountered any major challenges during your time here?
Um, I wouldn't say they are major challenges. I think it is just having a high tolerance to failure. We get lots of projects which are trying to break what this technology can do, are trying to push the limits of what the technology can do, and that in its nature requires us to fail a lot. It requires us to accept that sometimes we can't do everything, and we need to wait for some solutions that we ourselves couldn't implement, that we need some extra support to handle. So um, from a perspective where I'm trying to support a client and I see myself failing to support that client, I have to have that tolerance. I have to have that essentially understanding that sometimes we just have to give it a bit more time to find potential solutions that can help the client reach the solution, albeit not the most efficient way, but yet keep working until we find that efficient solution. And we don't stop at essentially a solution that is temporary. We take that temporary solution and we build on it until we have an approach that will always work going forward in the future. It is challenging, but it's very rewarding at the same time.
Yeah. 3D printing and especially large scale 3D printing is tough. It's not easy, and we need to manage the expectations correctly. Is very nice to see that you personally as well. You are very open minded, and you give time to discuss it and take ideas from around the team because working as a team and collaborating can get us into that solution faster. And it's like when we work on something very often is like working on a painting. Sometimes you need to step back and see the whole picture, have the bird's eye view, and not work in the weeds all the time. And that having the right people around you to throw ideas, it's always helps. So a little bit now about we are on a third segment, which is about industry insights and advice. So the 3D printing industry has come a long way in the past decade. So in your opinion, what are the biggest trends shaping the future of the field?
So I see robotics playing a big role in additive manufacturing moving forward. So historically, we've always looked at additive manufacturing using normal gantry machines, your desktop 3D printers or your slightly larger printers. So there are lots of advancements going into robotics and how to essentially program those robots easier, how to make barriers to entry much lower and allow essentially users to be able to find solutions quicker and find tailor-made solutions for specific industries. This is applying to polymers, to metals, and to concretes, essentially.
And do you see AI at all evolving in this space? And how do you see this contributing?
So I see AI supporting, contributing essentially in two ways. The first is by supporting users on their journey, working with software and working with technology, essentially making it easier for them to grasp new concepts, making it easier for them to interact with pieces of software like AI Build, to understand the hardware better. So that's the first aspect of it. The second aspect is automating some of the work that users have to do themselves, some of the very strenuous and manual work when it comes to dealing with meshes, dealing with geometry. This can be sometimes very work intensive, and AI can be essentially utilized to speed up that process, especially when it comes to creating generative designs, whereby AI allows for the optimization of the mechanical and thermal properties of certain parts to, number one, allow it to be produced in an additive manufacturing technology, and number two, withstand whatever forces or thermal issues it might be facing during its functional use. So there's plenty of room for AI to contribute to the industry, yes.
Yeah. Thank you, Rudy. For someone who's just getting started in 3D printing or tech parallel to 3D printing, what advice would you give them?
I would tell them to have a continuous learning attitude. I think there is so much going on in everything, whether it's from a mechanical side, from a software side, from an electrical side, even from a people management side. The industry is evolving so quickly, and the amount of knowledge out there is so great that we constantly have to feed ourselves. We constantly have to recalibrate our view of the landscape. It's evolving very quickly. More and more people are trying to adopt the technology, which is adding even more demand and adding even more knowledge to the field. So this openness to take on that knowledge and to have a very open mind on what is possible and what is not, and not stopping at what is not, essentially always trying to find a solution for what had previously been thought not to be possible. I think this is a very strong skill in modern day additive manufacturing, because just a few years ago, no one thought what we're doing nowadays is possible. So, yeah.
Well, that's great advice, Rudy. Are there any common mistakes you see people make when starting out in 3D printing?
I think it is the expectation that this technology is a plug and play technology, in the sense that everything will work very easily. It has taken people hundreds of years to become mature enough in technologies and subtractive and formative technologies. Additive is very new, it's very recent. We still need to look at it that way, that it's not yet the fully mature technology. So, and this is particularly true for large format. There's this confusion or misconception that small format additive manufacturing and large format, the same concepts apply, whereas in all honesty, it doesn't. Again, we have to recalibrate our way of thinking. We have to accept that what applied in other systems wouldn't apply to more newer and more advanced systems. So it's a new challenge. Each and every hardware system is a challenge. Each and every software is a challenge. Each and every part is a challenge. And all of the work that we're doing, we are setting the groundwork essentially to be able to tackle more and more production parts going into the future.
Yeah. So looking ahead now, what excites you the most about the future of AI Build and your role there?
What's really exciting is that there is so much room for growth at AI Build. My background was in polymers, but recently I've started working in metals, and I see myself also advancing in concrete printing. But it's not just that, it's not what materials we're working with. I'm gaining experience in robotics. I'm gaining experience in dealing with clients, in managing my own workload. So in the past, I have always worked with clients, but it was never as intense as what I was doing at AI Build. So there's a lot of personal development, and there's a lot of learning that I am doing and will be doing from my colleagues. I think we are all special. We are all specialists at what we do, but yet we have this capacity to learn and understand from each other. So someone who's doing robotics is learning UI, UX, and is learning 3D printing, and vice versa. So it applies to all of us. I think that's really exciting. I think we have a beautiful culture, a beautiful understanding culture where we listen to each other, where we learn from each other. And to be honest, there's nothing more exciting than that to me.
You are a beautiful person, Rodi. Thank you so much for this kind
Thank
words.
you.
Are there any upcoming projects or innovation at AI Belt that you are excited and you can tease for us? You don't need to say everything here, but you can.
I think a common trend that we've been seeing in additive manufacturing in general is the lack of closed loop systems. Additive manufacturing has always been looked at as an open loop system, whereby once the process starts, there is nothing correcting what was essentially coded in the G code or in whatever language was provided to the machine or to the robot. And we are seeing more and more demand in the industry for closed loop systems, which is why at AI Build, we're working on our AI Hub, which is essentially a system that is allowing all different types of hardware. We can integrate it with all different types of hardware, but we are allowing essentially users to close that loop to get a feedback loop of how their production is going. And we are including dynamic processes which allow for correction and which allow for improving printing processes as they are going. And this is a trend that I think is going to be very important going forward, so that additive manufacturing could be looked at as a more mature production solution in comparison to how it's been looked at recently.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, ready. So it's time for our rapid fire round. So short and sweet answers. Ready?
Yeah.
So first up, what's the coolest thing you are personally printed?
I think it's a space capsule for a movie.
Favorite tech gadget you cannot live without?
Ooh, my headphones.
If you could work on any sci-fi tech project, what would it be?
On any what, sorry?
Sci-fi tech project, what would it be?
Teleportation machine.
Dream place to visit for tech inspiration?
Oof, that's a tough one. I think Formnext, which I haven't visited yet. I've heard a lot about, but I haven't visited yet. So hopefully next year.
Next year you're coming for sure. Last one, coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Great, Rudi. That has been very inspiring and very nice conversation. Thank you for sharing your journey and insights. That's pretty much a wrap for today's talk between us. Thank you very much. It was really kind, and let's try to have another one very soon.
Thank you so much, Michael.
Thank you, Rudi. Cheers.